Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host, broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Join me today, former NBA player, pro basketball player, U.S. Senate candidate, Royce White. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
I got a lot to get off my chest, a lot of national politics. We talk a lot about Minnesota politics. I think things are getting really messed up on a global stage, at the national stage, obviously in Minnesota as well. But our audience comes here because they want to hear stuff about Minnesota.
Yeah.
And so you're like the perfect dynamic to loop in that national global stuff, but still keep it Minnesota and keep it real. So I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you, man.
All right. This episode is brought to you by Alpine Chemistry in the great city of St. Cloud, Minnesota. I was just meeting with the founder the other day. Awesome dude. If you need to expand your cabinetry in your kitchen or wherever, give Alpine Chemistry a call. Also brought to you by EliteGuardianMN.com. I got firearms training coming up on Tuesday, October 28th. You can go to EliteGuardianMN.com. All right, Royce, what got me interested in putting you on the show is there is a article by the Star and Sickle, or what some people call the Star Tribune here in Minnesota. For those people that aren't in Minnesota, Star Tribune is like the top paper. The old school people say it's the Minneapolis paper because the Star Tribune's in Minneapolis, and the St. Paul Pioneer Press, which, honest to God, I don't know how that paper is still surviving. Like, really, that paper is such a lost cause. Star Tribune actually does some actual journalism mixed in with political reporting. They even call us, although when they type it out, we're far right wing, which is really interesting if you really follow our views on things like Israel. I don't think that's how you would categorize it. But they do some politics, but they're very, very biased to the point where the guy that was running, was it the Department of Economic Development under Tim Walz, literally became the CEO or president, whatever they call the title, at the Star Tribune, like leaves the Walz administration right over to mainstream media.
Right.
So they put out a piece, and I want to read this for you because I thought this was such an interesting piece. I think this was it this week, Royce?
Yeah, it's probably it was on the morning of the 20th, I believe.
Okay, let's go through this here together, and then I want to get your comments. Title is Republicans Struggle to Find Candidate for Open Minnesota U.S. Senate Seat. Last I checked, you are a candidate, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
On paper, Minnesota's rare open seat as the U.S. Senate on the ballot next fall should be an ideal pickup opportunity for Republicans. The GOP gained ground nationally in 2024, and Democrats are struggling to coalesce around a message that will appeal to swing voters. But nearly a year since DFL Senator Tina Smith announced her retirement, only two main Republicans have emerged. Controversial former NBA player Royce White, who lost to Senator Amy Klobuchar last year, you got to throw that in there, and retired Navy SEAL Adam Schwarzy, a newcomer candidate who has lagged in fundraising. And this is a quote from former U.S. Representative Vin Weber. If the broader political dynamics are working in Republican favor, or at least in balanced favor, we should have a shot, but it's not there right now. Royce, when I think about judging the dynamics of the political scene, whether it's Minnesota or nationally, I'm always thinking, gee, what does former Representative Vin Weber have to say, now K Street lobbyist? Like, that is always where my head goes to. How about you?
I don't even know how Vin Weber's still relevant. It's amazing to me.
Well, every time I go to Republican events, that's all anyone's ever talking about is Vin Weber, right?
Well, I guess he's the claim to fame for the Minnesota Republican Party on a national scale, and it's easy to see why. Council of Foreign Relations now is the chair of the National Endowment for Democracy, which is about as globalist an institution as you could possibly imagine. And he's just a contemporary neoconservative, Bush Republican, Bush administration type Republican. Was one of the 29 people who signed his name to the document or the letter to Bill Clinton in 1998 to, get rid of the Saddam Hussein regime and start what has been the problem in the Middle East since that time. So, it's almost amazing to me. These people are brazen, and it's frustrating for me, as I'm sure we'll talk about, that your average Minnesota Republican either doesn't see it or doesn't care. But that's the fight we're in.
Right on. All right, I continue on. Minnesota's gubernatorial race has drawn plenty of interest from prominent Republicans, but the Senate race has been notable mostly for the number who've decided to pass, including 4 Republicans in the state's congressional delegation and former 2-term Republican Governor Tim Pawlenty. Some of the candidates who are either in the governor's race or weighing runs, including State Representative Kristen Robbins and State Senator Julia Coleman, also opted not to run for Senate. Pawlenty, a self-described Reagan Republican, said he was deterred from running because of the party's endorsement process, which has favored far-right candidates in the era of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. This is a quote from Pawlenty. "It's something I would consider, except I can't get endorsed or win a primary in my own party," Pawlenty said after a panel at the Minnesota Star Tribune's North Star Summit. Once again, when I think about modern-day politics in Minnesota, I don't want to take from the fact that Tim Pawlenty was the last statewide elected Republican in Minnesota in 2006. But the era of 2006 politics is way over. I mean, what was the internet like in 2006? Was YouTube was just coming on the scene or something like that? Maybe not even in the political realm.
Yeah, you still needed a college email to get into Facebook in 2006. I mean, it's a whole different world.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm going to skip over a little bit. For those people that watch this show a lot, you probably know right now that the candidates running on the Democrat side, Angie Craig and the Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. You would think that Andrew Craig wins all the awards for diversity inside the left, but Peggy Flanagan seems to be coming up that left flank very well. Maybe we'll get into your Democrat opponents, but right now, according to Star Tribune, you're fighting amongst Republicans. This is Pawlenty was the last Republican to win statewide, as I just mentioned. Republican operators say prospective candidates are worried about whether the state GOP, which has struggled with debt, will be able to support them in the race and fear other donors won't jump in to fill the fundraising void. And this is Vin Weber again. For some reason, it affects people's thinking more about a potential Senate candidacy than it does about a potential gubernatorial candidacy. All right. Now, they go through a couple people that were apparently looking at running. I had heard former NBA star Willie Burton was planning on running. I think he was even introduced by Tom Emmer at an event.
Family friend of mine, Willie Burton,
Bingo.
used to be the boyfriend of my mom's first cousin, and I know Willie Burton very well, and I got a lot of love for Willie Burton. When I say he's like family, he's like family. And he called me when they first called him, and I'm sure it was the NRSC, Tim Scott or Daines or whoever orchestrated that recruitment.
What the article says. Yep.
Yeah, and when they called him, he called me, and I said, "They're trying to use you." I mean, how corny is that for them to try and get the black hometown basketball vote from the University of Minnesota? It's just it's so out of the typical party politic playbook. It's an embarrassment, and I'm glad that Willie decided to opt out because I think he realized what they were trying to do. So
good man. Is he a good man?
Oh, I like Willie Burton. You know, Willie has an interesting story, one that I think people in this country need to hear about and be inspired by. Willie went through a serious problem with drug addiction back in the 80s as an NBA player, was there in Miami, and he fought through that. My cousin, when she was dating him, is one of the people who I think was instrumental in helping him get through that, and he came through it, and he changed his life around, and he's since got his degree, and he's very interested in education, and I think he has certain bona fides and chops when it comes to the educational system. He's from Michigan originally, so he's not from Minnesota, but obviously played at the U of M. So I like Willie Burton. You know, I don't have a problem with him, but he has no clue what he's getting into when he's dealing with Tim Scott, the NRSC, and Vin Weber. I mean, those
Right.
You're talking about. I mean, it's almost predatory, right? That's why they would never. That's why they would never come to me, and they have never come to me because they know, as novice as I am in politics, I'm not novice enough to not know who they are and not want to get in bed with them.
Right on. Well, even if you didn't know who they are, they emerged themselves in this article by Star Tribune. Though some Republicans see Schwarzy as a serious candidate, others have raised concerns about the less than $500,000 he's raised for the campaign so far. And Republicans worry their chances of winning the seat will diminish significantly if White wins the nomination again.
Right.
White handily lost to Klobuchar last fall and faced allegations of campaign finance violations, including spending money on clothing, food, haircuts, and at a strip club. Now, I did bring that up to you the first time you were on the show, so if people want to go watch that episode, probably from 2 years ago. You can watch that. But the one that's interesting to me, and I think the last time
Let's
you were on
address
this
them
show.
again. Let's
Okay.
address them again one by one. First of all, there are all kinds of things that we bought or things that campaigns buy in terms of promotional material that you may want to try and create prototypes for promotional material, mostly campaign uh, merchandise, right? Or maybe shirts for volunteers or clothes for volunteers, something that will promote the campaign in the form of apparel, right? That's typical of campaigns. We've probably bought, I don't know how many t-shirts now. We gave away 2,000 at the Minnesota State Fair this year, most of which were the Jesus is King version, which was great. But so the clothes thing is ridiculous on its face. Food, another ridiculous one. Campaigns buy food every day. Volunteers, campaign workers, out on the trail, you have a donor meeting or whatever the case may be, strategy. There's always food bought for campaigns. And the whole haircut deal, I don't even know where they're coming from with that. I'm bald headed. I haven't had a haircut. I haven't been to a barber in 5 years. So I definitely didn't get any haircuts on a campaign account. And if I did, there must have been some type of mistake on the accounting, and that happens as well. And this strip club thing, I mean, once and for all, I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again. And I think it's that, there's kind of a running joke made of it. And I don't mind it. It's politics. It's supposed to be a knife fight. But when I was in Miami, or actually I was in Fort Lauderdale to go on Patrick Bet David's podcast, which is one of the most popular and influential political podcasts in the country. We just so happened to be playing in Miami at the same time for the Big Three. So people's criticism was like, well, you shouldn't use campaign funds if you're not there for campaigning, if you're there to play basketball. But show me where another professional basketball player is playing basketball while also currently running for United States Senate. What am I supposed to skip out on meetings with a bunch of former NBA donors because I'm running for U.S. Senate? It's ridiculous. Anyway, I told the story before, but I think
By the way, if you went to an upend steakhouse, which is very common,
more expensive, more
yeah, more
expensive.
expensive.
Yeah, much
There's
more
probably
expensive.
there's no outrage on that.
Well, no, but this is why I say it, because let me talk about the thought process or the way that this plays out. The reason why NBA players or professional athletes go to the strip club or gentleman's club is because when we're done playing a game, usually at, I don't know, 10, 11 p.m. at night, the only place to get good cooked food is at a place like a gentleman's club, because they actually serve steak and lobster and shrimp and salad and grilled chicken and real food after hours. That's just what it. Or let's say we're done with the game and we have to fly to another city, and when we get there, we haven't eaten for whatever reason. NBA players aren't the greatest meal preppers. Okay, so
You're
it's
telling me that's the reason?
Oh, that's for sure. I mean, no, it's not the only reason, but if I'm gonna choose between the cardboard pizza from the hotel's late night menu and be able to go eat a steak and see some beautiful women, most heterosexual men are gonna pick the gentleman's club a lot. I'm just keeping it real, and
That is keeping it real there, yeah.
that's why a lot of NBA, and it's not just the NBA players, and this is what's so deceptive about what they're
Corporate
doing.
America too, yeah.
This is what is so deceptive about what they're doing. Nobody has a problem with the people on Wall Street using the company the company credit cards for their their entertainment, for the gentleman's club, or to entertain the clients or whatever. And it happens every single year, every fiscal period. There's a huge number, in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Wall Street people, Wall Street firms using credit cards for adult entertainment, just like that. Nobody makes a peep, and nobody makes a peep about it. Let's say in this instance, where certain Wall Street firms are certainly lobbying for certain campaigns and candidacies, and they're donating money. So the whole thing was, again, $1,200 was accidentally spent on a food tab. You got 25 NBA guys, steak, fries, mashed potatoes, lobster, a few whiskeys and whatnot. $1,200 is actually a small tab. And I try to use a personal card, or let's say one of my staffers used a campaign card. The next day I came back, I called the establishment. I go, we used the wrong card. I want to put my personal card on there. They said, we can't reverse the transaction. It's just our policy. And I go, okay, fine. I mean, if you can't do it, you can't do it. That is what it is. I can't fight you on that. I'm not going to sue the establishment to reverse a $1,200 charge. But what should have happened was, in the accounting, when I reimbursed the campaign for that $1,200, that should have been listed in my campaign finance report, and it wasn't. And that was an oversight by my treasurer. No knock on him. Those things happen. Oversights happen. But it got blown up into this huge thing. And the fact that the Star Tribune would keep going back to that well is only for conservatives, because no Democrat, I mean, Democrats are in support of transgender strip shows for little kids. You mean to tell me they have a problem with me going to the strip club with grown men? That's ridiculous. That entire line, that subtext, is only intended to disenfranchise me with conservatives who have a holier than thou approach to the way that they support candidates. 100% that's controlled opposition for Minnesota Republicans.
Yeah, I honestly did not plan on addressing that like you just did, but thanks for that.
Yeah.
What I really wanted to get to,
Hopefully once and for all, so they can use that
no, that will
soundbite
not.
now going forward.
That's a shot that'll be taken at you quite a bit.
Yeah,
And obviously, I think you understand why there's a connotation that people have on it.
of course.
As the great Liberty Longbeard says, I've seen campaigns waste money way worse than that and don't get called out. It's a fair point.
Yeah.
But the other part of that article was that you basically got clobbered by Amy Klobuchar, but we had brought you on the show to talk about it.
Yeah.
You did better against Amy Klobuchar. I didn't know at the time, but you did better against her than anyone, including Mark Kennedy, when it was an open seat. What was that, 2006 or whatever, first time she ran? 08? I can't even remember. You did the best against her. I mean, it was 40%. Like, you top 40% against Amy Klobuchar. She pulls Republican votes over.
With
I
no
know this. I've met
support.
these people.
With no support.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say no support. I would say what I thought.
Well,
was
from
interesting
no,
with your
no,
campaign
no.
was grassroots. Like, you would see
With
Travis
wait, let me be clear. With no support from the Republicans that they listed in the article.
obviously, right?
Right.
You drive greater Minnesota, Trump signs were seen all the time, right? I mean, greater Minnesota is Trump land.
Right.
When you would drive out there, you'd also see Royce White signs. And I go, you don't see others, right? Like, you probably toe-to-toe with any congressional member out there. That's impressive. All right. The article continues on here. Royce White should not be deemed fit to run, said former Republican Party deputy chair and state legislator Kelly Fenton. Now, if he's the candidate that's going to be on the November ballot, well, most people concede to the Democrat running.
She's the quiet part out loud.
Well, and once again, but you outperformed every Republican I'm sure she thought was kosher, like Jim Newberger, who ran against Klobuchar, and Kurt Bills that ran against Klobuchar.
No,
And
the fact that she would even the fact that she would even. First of all, let's talk about who Kelly Fenton really is. Okay, first, Kelly Fenton was a Nikki Haley delegate in 2024. She's a pro Nikki Haley Republican, and I would challenge her and I would dare her to step forward and say that I'm lying under a lie detector test. She's a Nikki Haley Republican. She was a Nikki Haley delegate, and just for example of how real corruption works in this country and in this state, and it's probably even dangerous for me to say this because there's so much money involved. Kelly Fenton's husband is or works for the architectural firm that is set to make, I think, around 8 or 9% of the $700-something million boondoggle office that's being built right now for the state legislature. Okay? It's $700 million building or whatever it is for that government accountability office or anti-corruption or whatever the boondoggle is they got going there. And her husband works for the firm, I think it's BRB or something like that. And the architectural fees usually run about 9% on a $700 million deal. That's around, I don't know, what, 50-something million dollars? Okay, so that's the way that money really works in this country and in this state. And that's exactly who Kelly Fenton is. And is that a conflict of interest? Is that something that she wants to talk about? Should that make her unfit or should she be deemed unfit to even have a political opinion on these matters when her conflicts are, her interests are so conflicted in current political matters at the state level, the budget level? I mean, come on. Unfit? I mean, in what way? I was deemed fit by the delegates. I won an endorsement. I won a primary.
Overwhelmingly in first ballot.
I did better. I have the second most U.S. Senate votes in the history of the Minnesota Republican Party. Mm-hmm. Only second to Jason Lewis. And I like Jason Lewis. But, I mean, to say that I'm unfit, they just say the quiet part out loud. I told you last night on the phone, I'm surprised that people even still take this faction of the Republican Party serious. And I'm contemptuous.
No, they don't. They don't. And you know
I think some of them do. I think some of
Well,
them.
not that many because,
We'll see.
because it's the mainstream media, it's the Star Tribune. I mean, the Star Tribune is at least doing some bit of job of innovating in this landscape of changing media. Like, that's why the Pioneer Press, I mean, they're stuck in their own ways. CNN's stuck in their own ways. Star Tribune's doing a decent job, but they're still a dying breed, and they're going to these old school, you know, thinkers that are all the same. Vin Weber, like no one talks about Vin Weber. Like,
By the way, didn't wasn't it Vin Weber? What didn't Vin Weber have to resign from the Congress or have to walk away from his gig in politics for the most part, his front facing gig in politics to become a lobbyist because he was involved in writing bad checks? Wasn't there a scandal of like
I don't even
50,000? Yeah.
I don't even know.
No, no,
Honestly,
no,
I
that's
don't
the
remember the
story. Wait a
story.
second. No, that is the story.
It probably
He
is a story.
he was
I haven't
accused.
talked about Vin Weber in like a decade.
Vin Weber was accused of being involved in a scandal of $50,000 or something like that in bad checks from the Republican caucus account, and that's why. And he walked away.
But did he go to a strip club?
Right, right.
Let me continue on. This is
Go
good
ahead.
stuff.
Go ahead.
Asked about concern from fellow Republicans about his run for Senate, White responded by referring to the Star Tribune with an expletive.
Yeah, communists.
Yeah, I'm going to get to some criticisms of your campaign, that being probably the biggest one I hear.
Okay.
Okay, now this is where it gets serious, right? In an interview in February, GOP Chair Alex Plekish predicted there would be a, quote, different outcome on White's bid for the endorsement now that delegates had more information about him. Quote, there was a lot of controversy about that, not only statewide, but also within our own party and our own activists, Plekish said of White's 2024 convention win. I think there were lessons that were learned from that process. In an interview this month, Plekish struck a more neutral tone on White. Whoever the candidate is that gets endorsed will have 100% support from the party, he said. I'm confident that as it fills out, even the skeptics will be impressed by the quality and seriousness of our candidates, Plekish said. This is not the Republican Party of old. Now, here's the concern I have. Plekish has sang a tune that makes it sound like he wouldn't be supportive of your candidacy. And I do want to bring this up. So, and I think we're the only ones that actually brought this forward. Back in March of this year, this was a statement from Plekish and the Republican Party of Minnesota. Remember, this is a new election cycle. You obviously know this. You're a candidate. This is a 2-year election cycle. You're raising money for office for next year. Yep. So is Michelle Fischbach, who is the incumbent out in CD7, Congressional District 7, Minnesota. However, it's a new election cycle and therefore open to an endorsement in a primary of spring of next year and then fall primary, right? And the Republican Party of Minnesota releases this under Plekish, basically, and I'll just read the last line because you can basically get the gist of it from the last line. It says the Republican Party of Minnesota proudly supports Representative Fischbach and her re-election campaign, looks forward to her continued work fighting for Minnesota's value in Congress. Now, to just the average guy, that might not seem that controversial, but to guys like you and me, we go, wait a second, no endorsing convention has occurred. No primary has occurred. You're just telling everyone that the Republican Party supports a candidate. Last time she had a challenger, Steve Boyd, a very good candidate.
Yes.
And you've essentially biased one direction. Well, that's the sense I got from Alex Plek's statement to the Star and Sickle. What do you think?
Yeah, well, he can do that because Michelle was endorsed by President Trump, and it's safe for him as the new chair to follow in Trump's lead, even though he's not a MAGA guy either. I mean, the whole deal here, and we could talk about President Trump as well, but the entire tale here is the Republicans they listed, all of the Republicans they listed in the Star Tribune article are not in support of the MAGA movement. They're not in support of President Trump, and they're certainly not in support of any America First idea, and that's why they don't like me. It's just like with President Trump. And you and I can talk about some critiques of President Trump's policy on a more granular level, but by and large, President Trump's detractors from the center right and certainly from the far left about his character are really just a justification to overlook all of the positive things that he's trying to do or says he wants to do in the interest of the working class. That's what it is. They can talk about Stormy Daniels until they're blue in the face. That's not their problem with him. How do we know that? Because their moral standard isn't consistent in that way. they are involved in a level of cultural debauchery that is so much greater than the single interaction with Stormy Daniels, if that even happened. I'm not saying one way or another, I wasn't there, but if that was even really a thing, their promotion, their endorsement, even their celebration of that level of cultural debauchery makes their opinion invalid when criticizing them on those things. Now go back to talk about the policy, they can't. It's the same thing with me. They don't want to talk about policy. All of these Republicans in this list are never Trumpers. And you can actually find,
That's true.
Tim Pawlenty, Vin Weber, Julia Coleman, she can lie all she wants. She's not, Kathleen Folk, she wouldn't even take President Trump's literature to the doors of her district. She refused to take President Trump's literature through her district. Okay. Adam Schwarzy, he was on Nikki Haley's campaign, congressional chair. I think Kelly Fenton worked on Nikki Haley's campaign. So, it's like they're running a slate, and it's almost unbelievable to me. I'm sitting here going, I start to wonder, are they doing this to help me? Honestly.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing is when the Star Tribune calls us for stuff, we have a conversation. It's like, should we even respond? It literally, there's no bump either way when we talk to the Star Tribune.
I sent you, by the way, Jake, I just text messaged you a picture. If you can pull it up, I text messaged you a picture just now of the endorsing convention from last year, and I'm up on stage. Yeah, go ahead and show it if you can. I'm not sure if you have the ability to pull it up.
I got it. I'll do
Yeah.
it.
Oh, you got to show this picture. This is golden right here.
Oh man, where is this? Why didn't that pull up?
This is why they don't like me, because I don't play these kind of games. I just go right down the middle on these things. I know who Alex Plekish is. He called me a mutineer once at a CD3.
A mutineer? What's a
mutiny? A mutiny against the establishment.
Oh, mutiny. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, he called me a mutineer.
That's a term, mutineer? Like someone that creates mutiny?
I think it is.
Yeah, isn't that what he always accuses us of? Is like,
but here I am, a young black Republican, new to the party. Looking
good there too, looking sharp.
Young black Republican, new to the party, come to a CD3 Republican event, and I'm sitting there at a table. He walks up and says I'm a mutineer because he doesn't share my views. That's what the Republican Party is for the establishment. Look at Alex Plekish there standing behind me with the Royce White for Senate sign in 2024. Step up, Alex. Explain yourself, sir. Explain yourself. What's going on here? Were you just moved by the momentum in the room that day and you went with the crowd, or did you really see me as a good candidate? Why are you standing back there and supporting me in 2024?
It does look like from this angle he's one of the ones holding the sign. It's hard to tell.
No, he's holding one right up in front of his chest.
He's holding one. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's your Minnesota GOP chair.
Yeah, very unimpressive in my opinion, since taking over. I've heard a rumor, but I don't think I should share that yet. So I'm gonna divert back to the article at hand here, because there's one other little nugget from this article, and there might be another person getting in the race here. This is according to the Star Tribune. State Representative Jim Nash of Waconia told the Star Tribune he's weighing a Senate run and has had conversations with the NRSC about a bid. He plans to decide before the year's end. Quote, I'm considering all the things that go into becoming a candidate for U.S. Senate if the delegates were to choose me as the nominee, said Nash, who's also been floated as a possible gubernatorial candidate. Because that's what we need. We need another state rep that really does no good up at the Capitol running, right? Okay. Republicans also said Kathleen Falk, a two-time state Senate candidate and the wife of former Xcel Energy CEO Ben Falk, is being encouraged to run and could self-fund a campaign if she enters. Plunkett says the field is far from set and believe more candidates will enter by early next year. All right, Jim Nash. There you go. The whip of the Republican-controlled House.
Steve Bannon once said that that Steve Daines of the NRSC was Mitchell McConnell's female dog, and Jim Nash is the same thing for Tom Emmer.
Yeah.
And again, even saying that right there, people don't go after other Republicans. Don't talk about Jim Nash that way. I had one person tell me at the CD6 convention earlier this year, Jim Nash is a good man. It's like Jim Nash is everything that's wrong with the Minnesota Republican Party. All of these, fruity cardigan wearing, elitist educated, country club Republicans, suburban Republicans who pretend. It's like, okay, Jim Nash, he's kind of kept a conservative record in voting
No,
on things like,
no,
well,
no, no, not
to
at all.
them, to the
Yeah,
Minnesota
they'll
Star
say
Tribune.
that. They're all
Right.
phonies. Yeah, they're all phonies. I
But
mean,
my point is, he will try to maintain a conservative-looking voting record enough for the moderates and the liberals to call him Republican so that he can even credibly run as a Republican or even say that he's running as a Republican in a MAGA era. And it's just like, okay, but my point on abortion, on 2A, on some of the cultural wedge issues of the Republican Party, does he think he's going to appeal to that's different than me on the issues that he has to say he supports for President Trump? Or is he saying, I support President Trump, but I don't support any of his ideas or policies? I wouldn't run on those things. It's just like, okay, well, that's why Minnesota is heading into a 14th consecutive presidential election for the Democrats. This will be the 14th consecutive time Minnesota's voted for the Democrat in the presidential election in 2028, if we do. And there's a reason, because we have Republicans like that who run this state's Republican Party. It's an embarrassment. You may not like my language. You may say Royce White is vulgar. He uses the F word, or because I'm effing pissed off that I joined the Republican Party to try and stand up for what the platform is really all about, republicanism, and I believe in it. And my great grandfather was a Republican, and the first 23 black members of Congress were Republicans. And I think that the Republican Party has a lot to offer black people, but it has a lot to offer the country in general. And here we got these internal saboteurs, who say they're Republicans. But Jim Nash, for example, told every state house representative on the Republican side not to be taken in not to be seen in a photo with me in 2024.
I'll have to read that.
On the record, he said that. I confronted him about it at the CD6 convention, and guess what his response was? Maybe I did. I may have said that. He
Yeah,
said, I may have said. I mean, this is who these
This
people
is
are.
the Action for Liberty's new scorecard. They just released it. It's 2025. It shows lifetime score,
Yeah.
and 2025. So he's the whip of the Minnesota Republican House. He's at 25%. That's a deep F. I think he's on the wall of shame. Overall, 57.95%. So he's an F-rated legislator. And honest to God, Action for Liberty's scorecard is the easiest scorecard. Just vote against more government. Vote what you say on the campaign trail, and you'll do very well in the scorecard. And yet most of them don't, including Jim Nash. And he's like a Tom Emmer in the sense that it's not just that you vote that way, it's that you're whipping the votes that way. You're the guy behind it selling us out on all that bullshit. And the case of them is increasing the budget to, in Minnesota, they actually blew through $2 billion of our surplus. That's what the Republicans' plan was. Like, they agreed with the Democrats back in April to spend $2 billion of surplus to basically finance a government that was increased by the Democrats, And of course, you guys all know the story out in Washington, D.C., how bad it is out there. So, yeah, I don't see them being any different. It's what's fascinating about this article. It just puts it out there, and that's why I give some credit to Star Tribune, is they get the pulse a little bit. They kind of understand something's going on inside the Republican ranks.
Yeah.
Sure, they want to damage the Republicans, but they do it on the Democrat side too a little bit. These kind of headlines do sell, but they could sense there's something here. And clearly there's a sense here when the NRSC is coming into Minnesota and interviewing with Jim Nash about running for a U.S. Senate.
Yeah, the NRSC is afraid of me too.
Well, you've never met with them, right?
I wouldn't meet with them.
Okay. They did want to meet with you?
I never got communication from them, so I don't know if they did or didn't. But in campaigns, a lot of times people will try and reach out through multiple means and not be successful in reaching you on the first or second attempt. But even if they did, I know who Steve Daines is. I know even Tim Scott, and people like Tim Scott. I don't like Tim Scott. I don't think Tim Scott's MAGA at all. I don't think he's America First at all.
Boy, he ran against Trump.
Well, not only that, but look at what he said. I remember Tim Scott saying to MSNBC, or in an interview with MSNBC, that our United States military needs to be ready to fight a war on 3 fronts in Asia at all times. I mean, it doesn't get any more military-industrial complex forever war than that. The conventional wisdom of military strategy is never get into a land war in Asia. He wants to be ready to fight 3 fronts land war on the continent of Asia. It's absolutely reprehensible. It's actually reprehensible foreign policy. I don't like Tim Scott. I think if there's a black token Republican in the entire caucus or in the party, it's Tim Scott. He's a goofball. He's
Yeah, I do get the sense, since you bring up race, that I mean, it's not like that doesn't happen on the Democrat side too, but they
right,
do want that token black guy or,
right,
maybe token female governor candidate, right?
right.
But
I
but
like
it
Winsome Sears.
but
I
it
like
co
Winsome.
well,
I
it
don't
comes at a
like Winsome.
cost. It's like we want just like the left, we want the identity, but we don't want them saying certain things,
See,
right?
I tell people,
You know what I'm
Jay,
saying?
don't vote for me because I'm black. Don't vote for me because you think I'm going to be able to win black votes because I'm black. Vote for me because I'm a black man who understands the value of citizenship. I understand this country's founding documents. I understand what America was supposed to be. I believe in America and the idea of the American dream. I believe it can be regained. I believe there's a lot of good for us still to have in this country, not the managed decline that our academic elites believe in. And I can articulate it to black people. Vote for me for that reason. Now, it may be that black people hear the truth and still go, well, we don't care. We're going to vote Democrat anyway because it's convenient and it works for us. It's the narrative. But we should be willing to lose that way. The same way we have to tell evangelical Christians that their blind support of the military industrial complex and the Patriot Act are a problem. And we have to fight. Though that's the multi-front war we have to fight in this country. That's the multi-front war we're in.
Okay, I want to get into it with you then. Okay,
Mhm.
so I appreciate what you just said, and I posted something on social media the other day because I've been getting a lot more negative on politics. Okay, a lot more jaded on politics,
Yeah.
um, which makes you the perfect guest to have on here because what I think your critics would even say is this guy's not afraid to talk and say the things he believes in. I don't believe anyone's going around saying you're a phony. Like you really go hard in the paint and maybe they hold that against you because you're maybe saying too many things out loud, okay? And say it with expletives, as the Star Tribune said it. So you do seem to keep it real. Donald Trump, in my opinion, is not moving forward the America First, Make America Great agenda the way that I was hoping he would. Now, I did vote for Donald Trump. I wasn't a Trump supporter going back to 2015. I never would consider myself that. But I also was not a never Trumper. I'm in that gray area. I would be that like libertarian that joined the MAGA coalition in 2024. And quite frankly, in 2020, when I voted for Trump, it was just a big FU to the deep state and the media for burying the Hunter Biden story. Trump
Amen.
didn't deserve my vote after COVID, not at all. But it was like, you guys can't do what you just did and suppress my voice too online. But 2024 had a lot more reasons to vote for Trump. And I feel now underwhelmed by what's going on here. And I put it this way on social media the other day. It's like, I really do believe in America and I want this country to be prosperous. But we cannot be prosperous with endless wars, endless debt, which that's the big headline today. In case people don't know, we just hit $38 trillion in debt. And you can't blame that on the Democrats because the Democrats don't run the government. Here's the Associated Press. U.S. hits $38 trillion in debt after the fastest accumulation, $1 trillion outside the pandemic. Okay. Not only Trump to blame, obviously Democrats to blame on that issue. It's the uniparty to blame. To make America truly great, there is a recipe that I believe exists, and every conservative should believe this. It's that government needs to shrink significantly right now. And all that reliance on government that is not affordable because it's a $2 trillion budget deficit every year. That's how we got to $38 trillion. We put that reliance back on families, communities, hopefully faith communities in particular, and on entrepreneurialism. Like
Yep.
enough of this helping out the big banks and the big corporations. We need young entrepreneurs taking risk and being innovative. And I don't think Trump is making great strides in that direction because what I see is a lot of the same old stuff. I see $2 trillion budget deficits, no transparency when it comes to things like Epstein. We bombed Iran, and if you're just being honest about it, it wasn't anything to do with America. It was doing something for Israel. And by the way, while we're talking about Israel, we're continuing to fund Israel more than any other country. And we were led to believe that we're done funding Ukraine, and now here we are talking about sending Tomahawks as we are currently funding Ukraine again.
That's a
We just
problem.
see this deal with Argentina where we're going to apparently sell out our own cattlemen here in the United States of America so we can buy Argentinian beef cheaper. I see story after story. Look, the U.S. Student loan debt. Apparently, Trump's no longer going to fight that. We're fine with the Biden student loan forgiveness program for those people that didn't go to school. Keep working because we got to pay off the loans for people that went heavy into debt. It's just thing after thing, and I see this. I go, you know what? I mean, no doubt Trump's done a good job on the border, and that's
Yeah.
not nothing. And he's done a pretty good job at the censorship brigade. But there's a lot of things I think he's royally screwing up in the sense of this was the greatest opportunity we've had in modern politics, and we should be going full on getting this stuff solved. And I don't think he's doing that. Where do I go wrong on that, Royce White? You want to go up to Washington, D.C. and promote the MAGA agenda out in D.C. Am I wrong on my assessment?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I would put a few caveats in there for sure, but it's natural, and it's somewhat the duty of American citizens to hold their elected officials accountable when they're unhappy with the results, even if it's the person that you voted for, especially if it's the person you voted for. That's called having some integrity and sacred honor. And my take on President Trump and this country as a whole, and why I want to get to the United States Senate, because I do think the United States Senate is the last bastion of the last bastion of the deep state, unless you want to say that it's the judiciary, the courts, the Supreme Court, and some of the other federal courts. But I think we have to be somewhat charitable and give some grace to President Trump on these things, because you and I both know that there are forces at work that the average American citizen just does not understand. And you can make an argument that President Trump should make those forces transparent, the same way John F. Kennedy did. But then again, it's kind of on the American people that a president or that a politician wouldn't feel so reassured in doing that, because Kennedy got his head blown off, and half the boomer generation believed the magic bullet theory. So
But it wasn't the time of the internet, right? I mean,
well,
there's
but
hope now that wouldn't work.
well, I mean, I don't know. Again, part of it is, and I agree with you. There's a crisis of leadership, and there's a crisis of integrity in our leadership, and I think there's a crisis of novelty, sort of intellectual authenticity and sort of profundity in our leadership in this country and around the world. But part of it is a reflection of what people want, and that is a majority-based, democratic-based philosophy or thought process, and the majority of people, too big of a majority of people, don't necessarily want to hold their government accountable, because they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to be held to a higher standard. You can say it, but do you really want it? Same thing that's going on here in the Minnesota Republican Party. So I give President Trump some leeway and some leniency on how he has to deal with. I mean, we have let these institutions.
Wait, so
So
your
go ahead.
contention is because the American people aren't standing up and demanding that? Is that what you're saying
Well,
here?
a couple
That's
of
why you give
things.
his leniency?
Number one, I would say that the American people are very unaware of how deep and dark and out of control these institutions really are. How
Right, but what
deeply.
about the people that are aware like us that actually voted for the
Yeah,
guy?
but we don't. But the point is, we don't get to. Again, we live under the heresy of democracy in the West,
Hmm,
and the heresy of democracy is that all majorities are made equal and righteous.
right.
This is a heresy. This is a Christian heresy. All majorities aren't made equal and righteous. That's why our founding fathers made us a constitutional republic, not a democracy. Because oftentimes in history, the mob gets it wrong. I mean, name me a story in history where the majority of people were getting it right about anything. Never. That's actually more. It's rare that happens. So my point is that in order for a president to navigate the long-term implications of his agenda and the things that he wants to get done, and the short term of approval from the American people to do it, is a very tricky and complicated thing, because the court of public opinion is going to have some impact on things that he tries to do, like the constitutional crisis he's in now. If he pushes too far, even your MAGA Republicans will say, oh, well, that's unconstitutional. But here I am, like, saying, roll down there and take Venezuela. we are in a geopolitical, and I'm as anti-forever war as they come, okay? But you gotta be able to distinguish between the two things. Were they forever wars in the interest of America, or were they forever wars in the interest of a global agenda? Those are two different things. You know, if we're going to go to a geopolitical jump ball, I love the idea of a hemispheric defense and strategy. Russia's taking Ukraine. Russia may consolidate the entire former USSR if it's by force. The European Union has to figure out their defense for themselves. They have more people than we do in America. They have 500 million people in Europe. Why are we defending a continent that collectively has more people than we do against a country that has fewer people than both of us? It's ridiculous.
I'm not certain I heard you right or
Yeah.
got your understanding when you said go take Venezuela.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean by that?
What I'm saying, and I don't mean seriously annex Venezuela, but what I'm saying is, you know, South America, it has to become a de facto. I'll say it another way. Our academic elites, okay. I told this to the Star Tribune at the state fair. This is why they don't interview me anymore. They don't when they do interviews like this, they don't call me because I demand that the interviews are recorded in their entirety, released in their entirety, and on video, so that the people can see
Yeah,
what's
you're
happening.
made for this kind of media. You're not made for that kind of media. That old
Yeah.
school.
His
Yeah,
soundbite media,
yeah,
you know, let me give you one quote that says nothing. It's corny,
right.
and that's why this country is
Well,
only
I'm giving you the right to, like, clarify what you said
Yeah,
because boy,
okay.
didn't I just get a good soundbite on you that sounds terrible, but maybe there's
N
something else
no,
there.
no,
Yeah, I'm curious what you have to
no.
say.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Uh, After World War II, again, our claim, the claim was that we were gonna bring democracy and freedom all around the world by peace through strength and make nations self-determining and their people self-determining. We didn't do that. That was a lie. We failed to do that. And my point is that our academic elites actually tell us that we should let all of these people come live in our country illegally when they were the ones that created the foreign policy that exploited all of those countries. You got to realize our academic elites are after World War II are the ones that perpetrated this global economic Ponzi scheme where we go and exploit all these countries for their natural resources, and we do deals with the devil, despots, warlords, tyrants, radical Muslims, or whoever else for our own national interests. So it's a scam by scam's sakes, and in order to undo the scam, we have to be more transparent about what we're actually doing. And so if we're in a geopolitical jump ball and people are going to take what's closest to them, going all the way back to Mackinder's theory of the early 1900s, that is the predominant geopolitical theory of the academic world in the West. If that's going to happen, then South America is under the jurisdiction of the United States of America. Why do all these other countries get
But what
national?
does that mean? You're talking about military intervention in these sovereign nations? Is that what you're referring to?
What I'm saying is, why do the people of Guatemala need to come to America? Wouldn't it be much better if we just took over if we just took over the leadership, the governmental, economic, corporate, industrial leadership of South America and
No.
wait. Why wouldn't it be better if we help Guatemala? And when I say help, I mean give them the information, give them the guidance, the things we were supposed to be doing after World War II, right? And we did it in Southeast Asia. That's why South Korea looks like New York
Yeah, but
City.
all those examples are terrible examples because they have blowback and it's a waste of resources. See,
No, no,
this
no.
is
Wait a second.
exactly
Wait
hold
a
on, one
second.
second, Royce.
Why do we not?
Hold on,
Why
Royce.
do we
This is
not?
exactly my contention about my frustration with Trump is
Okay.
I've been sold this America first thing, and everything you're saying right now is like, wait a second, why as a guy
No,
from
no. It
Minnesota
is
with a
America
family
first.
care about doing
It
this?
is America first because the alternative is not you, but we, the Republican Party, let the Vin Webers convince us that we need to give them $3 trillion a year to defend every military outpost across the planet.
Right. Well, I totally disagree with
Okay,
that
but no,
decision
but you
by the
don't get
Minnesota.
no, but
Yeah.
you get one or the other
No, you
because
don't. Why
no,
is it one or the I don't understand why
tell
it's
you
one
why.
or the other.
I'll tell you why it's one or the other. Because the game is already set. The board and the pieces are where they are. Either you pull back completely,
Mhm.
or again, either we pull out of everywhere, we close our border, and we say, "You people figure it out." even the Republicans don't seem to like. I like that. I'm okay with that. I'm
Okay.
okay with being called an isolationist. The rest of the
Well, you can
Republicans,
trade with them still, right? I mean, you don't have to be in
okay,
isolation.
and
You can trade with
you could trade
everybody.
information for free.
No,
Okay,
but we can trade goods and services,
now
you know,
we could trade, Jake. We could trade information for free. We could help Guatemala become a thriving nation. We like Guatemala poor. We like Guatemala poor so we can exploit them for the natural resources, so we can let drugs come into this country, Jake. I'll give you another example. Vassal empires are where the small country pays tribute to the big country for protection. I'm a little town, I'm a little kingdom, I'm a little country, and I'm worried about my neighbors. I don't have a really good military or strong military. I pay tribute to this kingdom over here. So if this kingdom ever tries to take over, they'll send military aid, right? Vassal empire, right? We agree?
Yeah.
Okay. We live in a reverse vassal empire. We pay everybody else to protect them. Now, in the audience, ask yourself, would you go to the most dangerous nightclub or bar in downtown Minneapolis and pay to be the bodyguard? Unless you're a psychopath, the answer is no. Unless you were selling drugs out of the back door, then you're paying for the access to oversee a secondary enterprise that's giving you more money than what you pay to play. That's what we've done in this country. And
Right.
so my point to you is in the justification, this is the ultimate uniparty scam. The Republicans say we want a closed border. We have to defend our military outposts everywhere. The Democrats say we are the ones who perpetrated this economic Ponzi scheme on these third world countries, and that's why we are obligated. This is what the journalist said from the Star Tribune. Because of what we did all around the world after World War II, which was their academic idea, we're obligated to let these illegal immigrants come and live here. So I'm saying let's reverse the whole policy. No, we're going to help Guatemala have good water wells. We're going to help them have good irrigation systems. We're going to give them the information to become a thriving nation, so that the people of Guatemala can stay there in Guatemala. But we don't want it that way. And as soon as we start being more honest about that, this country can go back to being America first.
Yeah, well, I hear you say information, and I don't think anyone's against that. And quite frankly,
Yeah, but how hard is it to have clean drinking water? You mean to tell me that artificial intelligence, that Elon Musk is going to send us to Mars? We can make a human baby, an organic flesh baby in an incubator from a petri dish with a sperm cell and an egg, and we can't teach the Guatemalans how to have clean drinking water?
no,
Stop it.
we definitely could.
Yes,
I
we
guess the
could.
question
For
is,
free. For free, we could. We don't
well,
want to do it for
okay,
free
well, that's
because
the problem that people have, and this is where I thought you were going with this. Is um, I have sympathy for that. I do believe I'm pro people. I'm pro the little guy, right? I
yeah,
hate the elitists. I hate the politicians. I can't stand these people. I think they're no good. But the average common guy, I don't care if you live in the deserts of Iraq or you live down in Guatemala, you're
yeah.
generally probably a good person that cares about your family. And I want you to survive, and I want you to be richer, and I want you to have clean drinking water. The problem I have in politics, and this is my critique on Trump as we stand here and 10 months into his administration, is but when you start taking money away from me and my family, right? And let's be honest, and you know this as well as anyone, that money isn't just taken out by the IRS, it's taken away from the devaluation of our dollar
No doubt.
because you have an unaffordable government. You print money to
Yes.
try to bail out that government.
You
So
know,
I
I
am
agree
getting
with you.
robbed by the
And the Fed.
government.
We should end the Fed for sure.
Right. And so then you tell me, but that money needs to go over to Guatemala. That money needs to go
Wait.
over to
I'm not saying
Ukraine.
that. No. I'm not saying that. When I said that we should help Guatemala, we can do it for free. The help that Guatemala needs and the help that we could give Guatemala is something that we could do at no cost. We like them the way they are. All the money that the CIA, if we spent money, if our government, if the CIA right now with all of their black budget money spent those resources to help elect leaders or run psyops in people's elections outside this country, other countries' elections, that elected nationalist politicians that would build their country up from the ground, like we want President Trump to do here. And you're seeing some of it start up there in Europe. There's a nationalist populist movement happening in Europe. If we did that, if we spent our resources on that, which are already floating around out there, it would just be a reallocation of black bag money that's already going to globalist politicians, Guatemala could become a thriving nation. But we don't. We like it like that's part of the scam. And so I agree with you. When I said let's help Guatemala, I don't mean send another dollar or raise that debt ceiling a single penny. I'm completely against that. I'm talking about the exchange of information. We spend more money trying to keep those countries down than we do trying to build them up. And we also allow them to attack us. Not only do we spend money, we give them money to keep them down. We allow that money to then be used to attack us. And that's what I think President Trump is doing with Venezuela, honestly. We're not gonna trade money with you for you to send drugs to this country. Bottom line, we're not.
Let me ask you this question:
Yep.
If you win, and despite what the geniuses that the Star Tribune interviews, because I would like to say this. I think people know, I'm not that much a hothead. I'm humbled by some of the things, but I'm pretty good at predictive politics. Like literally on this show, we predicted Trump would win the election in a landslide. The only thing we got wrong is we didn't think he was going to win Michigan, and he won Michigan. We had all the other swing states correct.
Yeah.
I was off by one person in the state house in Minnesota, and I predicted the Senate correctly. You go back to a lot of elections. I predicted in 2016 Trump was going to win. And that was a very hard call. Although it was kind of I think there was more people in 2024, but no one was really calling that in 2016. We did a podcast the week before. I think I got a pretty good sense of things. And I believe you actually do stand a chance. If I get to it, I'll give you some of my critiques on your campaign, which I think need to be corrected to give you a better chance, to be honest with you. But you would then surprise the world. You actually would have a mandate, like I haven't seen that in Minnesota, and you'd got to U.S. Senate. My first question here, because I'm going to go back to Trump here, where you're going to want to buddy up at least or talk to somebody or unify with somebody up at the U.S. Senate. It's just the way to get things done is to find somebody, some kind of Senate companion, especially someone that's been there for a while. Who would that be?
You asked the question that you already know the answer to.
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think that there's a reliably America First senator in the entire United States
closest Senate.
To it. It's actually hard for me to even say. When I look at everybody, Mike Lee, maybe.
Okay.
When I look at everybody, is Tuberville a senator? I think Tuberville is a senator, right?
It's great that you don't know that, just so you'll have to go up to the U.S. Senate and be questioning everyone. There's one that stands out to me that's very consistent.
Is it Rand Paul?
Yeah, he seems to be the most consistent on the things that you're talking about: foreign wars, no. Debt, right?
Obviously, what Ron Paul stood for and did was incredible. And now, in retrospect, when we look back at it, the fact that Ron Paul didn't have the success is an indictment of our party yet again in history. But hindsight is 2020, and I think Rand is obviously from his father's.
By the way, I think Ron Paul had a big effect. It wasn't in that 2012 presidential election,
right?
Because he got me.
The fact that we put up Mitt Romney instead of Ron Paul says almost everything you need to know.
Well, in some regards, you could look at it as a godsend because Trump never would have been president if Romney got elected, right?
Maybe you could
that was actually the argument for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, no doubt.
If we're not going to solve these problems, it's better for it to fall on her than on supposedly our guy. Okay, so Rand Paul? You would put Rand Paul in that category, maybe?
No, I don't. And it's nothing against Rand. Is obviously nothing against his father. My whole thing is, I'm much younger than they are, and I say that because
I get that, but I'm just saying policy.
My whole approach, what I'm saying is my entire approach to things would be different. So much different.
Good. That
maybe even Rand Paul wouldn't want to rub shoulders with me because of what I would say and what I would do.
Would you concede that he tends to be the most reliable though on the issues that you're talking about?
For sure.
Who do you think is on the exact opposite side of the Republican conference from those issues?
John Thune.
Yeah, well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
What about Lindsey Graham?
Yeah, of course, for sure.
Okay, so this is another thing that's gets to me.
Murkowski.
Yeah, Murkowski, obviously. And Alaska, you could do so much better. It's unfortunate. So right now, we're told by Donald Trump, and I know the 4D chess types are going to be like, well, it's probably his handlers and stuff like that. But then it's somewhere it's got to fall back on Trump. We're told by Donald Trump that we need to get rid of Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. These guys are like a cancer out in Washington, D.C. The guys that are most reliable on the issues that you're talking about, and I believe in, stop forever wars, stop the endless debt, stop the money creation. We need to get rid of those people, according to Trump, on social media, multiple posts, right? And
Yep.
then we find out the first election cycle fundraising event that he's going to be attending and supporting is freaking Lindsey Graham.
Yeah. Horrifying. Horrifying.
Like, Royce, you're a MAGA guy. You're like you got a hat that says Trump 28,
Yeah.
which obviously is a joke because, I think all of us would oppose Trump doing that unconstitutionally. It's a good troll. It's a good troll. Apparently,
Nope. I'm not opposed to it.
You're not opposed to Trump running for a third term?
No.
Even though the 22nd Amendment doesn't allow that?
There's ways to get it done. He could definitely run as vice president. It's frowned upon.
He could do that. That's true.
It's frowned upon, but it's not unconstitutional.
Do you think? Yeah, but we know Donald Trump's not going to run for vice president.
Well, I don't know how it plays out, but I do know this, and I'll say this in again in defense of the president. I don't mince words about things I disagree with. I think people kind of look at politics like politicians should, do the things we expect them to do, or we're out. That's not the way we should look at these things. There are so many people around the president, and there are so many competing interests and competing theories about a particular policy or approach on a given issue. It is the fight, and this is what I keep trying to tell Republicans. When I say President Trump needs us, I don't just mean he needs us to put a MAGA hat on and say we love the president. It's like, no, that's nothing. It's not a basketball team. I can say I love the Timberwolves. No, he needs us to actually show up to the gym early, put up extra shots, sweep the floors, get the water bottles. And the way that we do that is we have to be engaged in these internal fights for the direction of the President Trump administration and the MAGA movement.
Okay, I love that analogy. Okay,
Yeah.
and you're speaking to my heart. I love sports, right? Obviously. Yes, I am there at the gym an hour early shooting hoops to get ready.
Right.
Okay. But that's the assumption that the coach we have is in it for our benefit.
Right.
And that's where guys like me, and I know I'm speaking to people in our audience, and I know I'm speaking to a lot of people out there who are starting to become disillusioned that Trump really wants this team to win the championship.
Too quick, man. Too quick. You guys got to, again.
Well, I just give you a great example. I get it. Like some things I would literally give him the benefit of the doubt. I've been actually, now this is his own measure.
No, and I get it. I agree. You have your critiques. I'm not.
Day, right?
I'm
He
not
says that. I give him leniency. He didn't create the mess fully. I mean,
No, we shouldn't. Well, listen, we shouldn't. I'm as anti-Ukraine, but I mean that might be the litmus test for the entire field of Republican candidates in 2026 still. And I thought that had gone away because the president was elected, but I guess we have to have a referendum on that again. I was going to change my campaign slogan from "Border Debt and Forever Wars" to "Remember Normal," but now I guess I might have to bring "Border Debt Forever Wars" back. But we shouldn't send the Ukraine any Tomahawk missiles whatsoever. In fact, the entire European Union.
About it.
No, I know they probably will do it, and I'll be pissed off.
Will.
And I'll be pissed off.
My point, Royce, is the person that wants them to do it, that seems to get off by us sending Tomahawks to Ukraine, is Lindsey Graham. Yep. And this is the thing: is like you say we got to give him time, and I would maybe give him on like policies in Ukraine some time because that's a very hard quagmire of diplomacy. Doesn't mean you fund Ukraine, but when you tell me that Rand Paul needs to go and Lindsey Graham, let's reelect Lindsey Graham. What is there left? What am I supposed to believe? When you openly lie to us about Jeffrey Epstein, I'm sorry. I don't like being lied to by the president.
Here's what I'll say, and I agree with you. Here's what I'll say. Vox populi, vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. And any real populist believes in that statement. Now, do we mean it literally? No. But the will of the people, especially in this country, the will of the people is, whether we like it or not, going to be the leading authority on the future of this country, the direction of this country. It doesn't matter who's in office, the will of the people. And so one of the things that I think President Trump is brilliant at doing is putting the onus on the people. And right now, he's kind of saying, hey, if you guys believe in Lindsey Graham, if you guys want a Lindsey Graham, if Lindsey Graham is the best that can come from South Carolina, then I guess as the president, I got to support the Republican. I mean, what if he was to say,
Why
you
did
know
they
what?
do that about Kentucky? Like the same.
The same thing. And I totally agree. I would never, I would never renounce my criticism or my anti-support of Lindsey Graham or any of these other people, no matter what the president does.
Mhm.
The president can endorse Lindsey Graham. He's still a neocon, rhino scumbag. The president can endorse Michelle Fishbach and Tom Emmer. They're still neocon, rhino scumbags. So but again, it's
Let me
it's
okay,
like
let me
being in a family, right? Just
Mhm.
because my brother may prefer a certain gym, and I'm using a very, irrelevant sort of trivial example, but just because he may like a certain gym doesn't mean that I'm not going to sit down and eat dinner with him still. It's my job to continue to try and impress upon him why those decisions are undermining his goals and our goals as a family, or our goals as brothers, or whatever the case may be. And
It's
it's
seems like
important for us
it's
to stick
hard
with
for
Trump.
us. It seems like it's hard for us to press that upon him because this guy was given the greatest mandate, the one of the most beautiful coalitions of modern politics,
Was it
and so
really a
it's like
beautiful coalition?
it was a beautiful coalition.
I don't
Maha's a
think so.
beautiful,
I
wonderful
disagree.
thing. The
No,
libertarians that
I disagree.
well,
See, because
it
you
was
can't
it
have
was
it both ways.
successful. It was
You can't
successful.
but Jake, you can't see there again. Okay, now we're conflating two things. Either it's principle or is it about strategical victory? Because again, if you say that the coalition is beautiful, but it's made up of its base is the Republican establishment that voted for Lindsey Graham, then how is it a beautiful coalition?
No, that's not part of the coalition. I mean, those
It
people
was
are
though.
well, not the way I look at it,
Okay.
because those people are creatures of that world that they will do what they're gonna do always. They're all because you and I both agree
Yes.
there's a uniparty
Agreed.
apparatus, and
Agreed.
they need campaign jobs, and they need to be in parts of the State Department, stuff
But
like
do
that.
you
That's
think we
things
can
there.
win without no, here's my point. The
No,
only
he
reason
could
I
have easily won without those people. The
you
chickens come
think
home to
wait, hold
roost.
on. You think wait, let me hold on. Wait. Hold on now.
Well, by the way, he did win because look at the Cheneys. Look, the
Wait, hold
Cheneys
on.
literally
No,
couldn't even
no,
stomach
wait a
it.
second. Wait a second. Hold on. Let's get granular about this. And I agree with you, and we can keep talking and we can criticize the president and some of the things until the cows come home. I'm all good with that. But let's get granular about this. You believe that President Trump could have won that election without the concession from the traditional Republican establishment?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
100%.
well, and guess what? Here's what I'll say.
Well, let me put it this way,
Okay,
he was gonna get that no matter what, because those chickens always come home to roost. That's my contention here is they're gonna come back because they need those campaign jobs, right?
no, he
They
wouldn't have
need
won it
to
no matter what. He did a great job. No, no, he could have. Listen, those people don't like me. They don't like Steve Bannon. They
they don't
don't
like
like.
Trump.
They don't like
They don't like
right,
Trump.
but President Trump did do a good job for that moment in American history of uh, 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 building a bridge with the Republicans that he knew didn't really support him. If he didn't know, then he's getting bad information or he's not paying attention. I don't believe the
Okay,
president
so you
is a
think
dumb
he
man.
knows that, and I tend to agree with it. So then
Yes.
that gets back to why we brought this up is that our voice seems
We
to
gotta
get
we gotta be honest.
silent,
He
and
wouldn't
they're the ones that get to call the shots now under his administration.
and that is where he has to be encouraged by the people of the MAGA base to speak the will of the people to the president, to the presidency, and say, okay, you won. We're 2 years in. We're going to be 2 years in 2026. This is a referendum on America First and MAGA and the Republican Party, and we no longer need those people in order to maintain the agenda.
Mm,
But there's a concession there. See, because if we don't want the Christian evangelical fake conservative coalition, seriously, if we don't want that coalition, then we got to go somewhere else. And in order to go somewhere else, we're going to need our Bibles and our constitutions, and we're going to need a grassroots activism that we haven't showed in the conservative movement in the history of this country. We haven't showed a grassroots, on the ground activism in the conservative wing of any political system since the days of Christ coming out of Israel when the early Christians went and evangelized Europe. So
It's a
we,
yeah, it's a
yeah,
good point. My friend Mark Bashosky, who led
yeah,
the Stop the Mandates rally up at the Capitol. Mark's a real patriot. He made a comment on Facebook list over the weekend that these No Kings rallies, which are just it's the new flavor of the Democrats, right?
right.
They're showing up at tens
Great
of
branding,
thousands.
great
Yeah,
branding too.
they're like at tens of thousands. But meanwhile, when we had literally a king ruling over us in Minnesota by the name of Governor Tim Walz, locking us
Right.
down, forcing mandates of vaccines on people that work for the state, also masks. The best crowd I think we ever had was 6,000, which is not nothing, but it's like they show up for a pretend king, like not even someone that's like last I checked, my rights aren't going away right now under Trump. I'm concerned about things, but my rights are intact,
Right.
and they get tens of thousands. So you're 100% right. We just on the conservative side don't match. I mean, there's lots of reasons for that. Obviously, we work at higher rates than the left.
Yeah. I don't want to. I
We
don't
have
want to hear that.
families.
I don't want
Well,
to
we
hear it.
definitely have families. I mean,
I
that is
don't
a
want to hear it.
that's
I don't want to.
100% a thing.
I don't
The
want to hear it. I don't. I love. I love.
Well, no,
I,
no,
you
no.
know. I
I'm
like
not
you.
making excuses. I'm saying that's why it's happening. I
Yeah,
get
but
it, and
see,
it's
but here's
wrong.
my
You're
thing.
right. It's
But
wrong.
here's my thing. Here's my thing. And it's the same thing I tell the evangelical and Christian crowd about the use of profanity, right? There's these contradictions. And I say this not as a tangent, but as a support of what I was just saying in defense of President Trump is he has to deal with things as they really are, not as he wished they would be. And if a president, especially in this time with the margin of error as small as it is,
Mhm.
he is in a very difficult position to try and one, keep the ideological principle and navigate the politics that we let get out of control. So I tell the Christians, the evangelicals, who some of would have not supported Trump either, based on the merit of his moral character or his moral integrity in their view from a religious standpoint. But they came around obviously for good reason because the left are run by uh, publicly admitted Satanists in many ways. But um, look at my candidacy and all the conservatives that say, well, he uses profanity. I can't support that. But they all support the
Trump
military.
just dropped the F-bomb last week, by
Well,
the way.
but that's one too, but they all support the military. Let's go to the granular. They all support the military. They all have an undying, unwavering support of the military. And we all know, you and I know, especially you served, how much profanity is used on the military bases or in combat.
That's why
Or
I got a potty mouth.
okay, so but
That's
my
why I have
point
you
is
on.
this.
I look like a choir boy compared to you.
Yeah, there you go.
Plus,
But
Bridget got us the swear jar, so we
but
cleaned
this
it
is
up a
my
little bit.
point. This is my point. How can we say both things at the same time? How can we say we don't want our candidates to use profanity, but we allow for our military men to, and we still support them? The reason we do is because we've created a distinction between our men and women in service going off to war and the war that's happening right here in this
That's
country.
an interesting point. That's a
We
very interesting point. I never even thought of that because you're right. I think most people, the old adage, swore like a sailor, right?
right.
So, yeah, I guess it's just because it's probably not present in their face and they don't hear it. But
There is a
yeah,
war
damn,
happening
Royce, that's a good point. That's an interesting point.
war
Yeah,
happening in this country, and the war is mostly intellectual, it's mostly verbal, it's mostly
yeah.
a war of ideas in the public arena. And because of that, we have to use the same principle, the same ethic, the same standard of morality that we put on our men and women that we commission to protect us around the world. And it's just those type of contradictions. I mean, there are so many Republicans around this country that got elected because they stand up there and they went to law school or whatever the case may be, and they wear the tie and they make sure not to say anything
Mhm.
controversial or vulgar, right? And
Right.
enough middle-aged white Americans in the Republican Party, and my grandma was Norwegian. I have no problem with white people whatsoever. I think the whole race hatred thing is stupid, a distraction, and a scapegoat. But the Republican Party is made up of mostly middle-aged white people, and a lot of them are
As is
Christian,
most of Minnesota, but
as is most of Minnesota, and a lot of them are Christian, and a lot of them are Protestant, and they have such a superficial idea of what a candidate should be for the time that we're in.
Mhm.
Sure, we would love a messianic prophet, that doesn't need to say, "You people are effing communists." But when I look back at history, we had those people. We did have those type of prophets, and we still didn't listen. Part of the truth here, and I say this again in defense of President Trump. Part of the truth is that this country never could have gotten to where it was today if the conservatives, who had the House and the Senate just as many times as the Democrats over the last 40 years, didn't concede all of the territory that they claim they have moral high ground on. You don't have the moral high ground unless you keep the moral high ground. We didn't.
Yeah.
We let the Jim Nashes come in. We let the Trotskyites. Let's go back to the history, Jake. We let the Trotskyites, who immigrated to Mexico and then ended up in the early neoconservative branch of American politics. Irving Kristol was Bill Kristol's father. Bill Kristol was considered the intellectual thought leader of neoconservatism in the conservative movement for a long time. His father, Irving Kristol, was a Trotskyite. He was a communist. Okay, so when I say there's a uniparty, when you see me online and there's a Republican activist that's like, we have to be able to win. We need a candidate who can appeal to the moderates, and I call him a communist conservative. I'm not joking. Seriously, I'm just not joking. And
Well, that's
they cannot vote if they want. And you could say that that's bad campaign strategy,
Yes,
but
I would
but
say that.
but then you also have to concede that if that's the case, you are going to indefinitely get a President Trump who has to play fast and loose with the dynamics of the political culture that you and many others believe is acceptable.
But I
Either
feel
you
like
want
it's
to
a
either
waste
you want a
of time,
brash
though.
mouth or you don't. Which one you
Well, yeah,
want?
but I have no problem when you go after Jim Nash or Kelly Fenton or you talk about Vin Weber. But
Yep.
when you spend time, I mean, like online arguing and debating and, trashing your regular conservatives, I'm like, that's just from a practical standpoint, a waste
You're
of
saying
time.
they're regular conservatives.
What's that?
You're saying they're regular conservatives. I'm saying
You think it's like that's a concerted effort? Because I mean, I know people that
who?
it's not a
Give me an
concerted effort. They
example. Give me
literally
an
that's how they
example.
what's that?
Give me an example.
Well, I don't wanna dime them out, but and
Okay.
I don't mind sharing it with you. In fact, I think we've talked about it, but
Well,
some people that
here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say. My own mother, and I love my mother to death. She pushed me out with no drugs. I was 10 pounds, 9 ounces. Okay. But
serious? Damn.
my own mother, yeah, God bless her. She's an incredible woman. 10 pounds, 9 ounces, 22 inches, no drugged. Maybe that's why my head's on straight, because I don't have epidural in me since I was a baby. But anyway, I know I was a joke. No offense to people whose mothers had epidurals. I know they're common. But my own mother
Yeah,
could be
communist. Okay.
common. God knows. But my own mother could be online, and if she said something as reprehensible and as out of touch as some of the people that I see and what they say online, I wouldn't use profanity against her, but I would certainly call her out, and I would spend time to show the American people, and I think politicians have lost the importance of this. I don't look at anybody as beneath me or not worth my time. When I see something, especially if
That's
it's
fair.
if
Yeah.
it's a comment, that I think really illustrates a profoundly dangerous way of thinking, especially as a Republican or a conservative or a supporter of President Trump and the MAGA America First way, if I see a comment that I think particularly illustrates a profoundly dangerous way of thinking, I think it's important for people I think it's important to engage in that and for people to see my answer. I actually believe that.
It's an interesting point because, obviously I've got influence from time and Action for Liberty and the show and stuff like that. And I'm a big believer in post and ghost on social media. You're obviously not. I think to some degree that almost does like belittle who these people are. Like, but like you could swear or you could curse. I'll probably just have you unfollow. I don't have time for that. I don't really care. Some
Yeah,
people just are thinking emotionally and stuff, and I don't really have any ill will to these people. I don't even forget. I don't even remember these people do this after like a year or two,
yeah,
just because you might have been in a bad state of mind at that time.
true.
So I don't engage on that. So that you might have a good point. You're actually giving them more credit and treat them more human because you're actually listening to their opinion and then responding in a way that some people don't like. I don't.
Yeah, they don't like it.
But here's where, like, from just a practical standpoint, just from
Yeah, go ahead.
my assessment of your campaign, is it seems undisciplined, and it
Yeah.
seems like there's way too much time online focus because you obviously one of your greatest talents is what you do online. You were just on Stephen A. Smith's podcast. That's awesome, right? What Republican candidate? Yeah, Joe Frazier is going to be on Stephen A. Smith. Like, no, he's not, right? You're getting on good shows. So that's your benefit, but it's also like your problem, because it's like, how much time is sucked up on social media arguing with people that's not changing the narrative in the grand scheme of things. Or look at it this way. I might be arguing with one or two people on Twitter. Meanwhile, another activity could have got me 50 new supporters. Well, politics is a numbers game. I'm going to go for that activity that gets me those 50 new supporters than waste the time on the two other people. Now, once again, as you just mentioned, you're giving those people at least, some due diligence. I wouldn't, but just you understand what I'm saying?
Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait, hold on. Wait a second. Wait a second. I think your math is off here because, and let's go again granular to the way things are versus the way that we wish that they were. It's currently estimated that your average American citizen now spends 60% of their time online. So what's more efficacious way to spend my time? Online in front of people who are online most of the time, the majority of their day, or going out to organize some town hall for 50 people and only 50 people out of the 3 million that vote. Like, for example, I'll give you an example.
The second 100% of the time in Republican politics, 100% the second one. Because first of all, you don't know if you're arguing with bots.
Doesn't matter.
Which is a massive problem.
Wait a second. No, it doesn't matter who I'm arguing with. It matters how
many.
It
100% does.
No, it matters.
They might not be a Republican primary voter and never will be a Republican.
Listen. No, it matters how many people see it. For example, I'll give you an example.
I go, man, that's an undisciplined campaign.
Yeah,
undisciplined. Because
undisciplined is a matter of opinion. The disciplined campaigns often slide into Donald Trump is running a disciplined presidency then. Because he's appealing to the coalition that he needed to get him in office. He's paying back. He's helping. He's keeping together the team that got him across the fence. And I know you wouldn't say that President Trump could have gotten elected without support from the Israel lobby. I know you wouldn't make that claim. Could he? You think he could have gotten elected without support from the Israel lobby? As critical as I am of it?
Yes, probably, just by how
not a chance. Not a chance. I disagree.
Yeah. Well, because what got Trump elected, and it's overwhelmingly his embrace of America first. So the only reason I give a little pause to that is if he didn't get the Israel lobby, does that mean like Charlie Kirk wasn't actively doing what he did to support Trump? I mean, like Charlie Kirk
himself was in the pro-Israel lobby.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. So like, does that take away the Charlie Kirk?
Right. That takes away the Charlie Kirks.
Then you make a good point.
That takes away the Charlie Kirks. That takes away, a lot of the ancillary conservative.
We don't know if it took away Charlie Kirk. That's the beauty of what I've
true.
learned.
Charlie is a unicorn in this whole narrative.
He certainly is. Yeah.
But okay. But I'm saying this: undisciplined campaigns, and I'll go back to my point. Some people would say up in Zimmerman a few weeks back at the Zimmerman BPOU. I forget exactly which BPOU it was. It might have been. I forget exactly which BPOU it was because I go to so many.
You're talking about the Mille Lacs one?
The Mille Lacs BPOU.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I was in Zimmerman, right? And out front, they were having this protest of our event. And there were about 25, 30 communists out there with their flags and their bullhorns. And I decided to stage a single man counter protest, right? And I was out there by myself. Now, mind you, there were a bunch of Republicans that were in the event, and I don't think that middle-aged to older Republicans should have to stand out on the front lines and counter protest the communists. That's not my call of duty for them. They should be able to stand in there, and me as a 34-year-old, I'll go stand out in front and protest these communists all by myself because these people are weak. But my point is that a lot of people would look at that and say, well, that's a big waste of time. Why would you waste your time doing that? Why would you waste 2 hours standing there berating and truth saying to 25, 30 comments? What votes are that getting you?
Well, gets you no votes, but what it does is it gets you PR. I saw that and I go, well,
how many views?
That looks like a guy not afraid to go.
How many views, Jake, did the video get on that?
That's exactly my point. Is I didn't see that, so I'm not. I
1 million.
Yeah, those are different.
Adam Schwarzy.
Well, yeah, a million because
Adam Schwarzy could get Tim Scott, Steve Daines, and the entire rest of the NRSC to support him with all their money, with all their special interests and lobbies. That's a waste of money. That's an undisciplined campaign. When a candidate has to go manufacture support through special interest and lobby money, and they can't create it organically off of their integrity and their sacred honor. 1 million-person view on that one incident, where, mind you, I didn't even have to do any work. The liberal filmed the thing as an insult
Right.
to me. She thought that it was going to be damaging to me, and in the backfiring, these are the kind of things I think
Yes,
in the internet win
I'm in line
campaign.
with you on that. That was not my critique. I mean, that actually has a lot of benefit PR wise.
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying the argument about the time spent on social. Listen, it's not my doing. It's the American people, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, who have chosen that the internet is where they're going to spend the majority of their time. So candidates have to spend the majority of their time on the internet. You have to be where
That's
the
where I
people are.
disagree with you. That I
Okay.
100% disagree with you on
Where's
that.
the math? Show me the math.
Oh, the math's so obvious.
If the majority of the people are online, where why it's like
Hold
it's
on,
like
you have 3 big objectives here, right? Okay.
yes.
Objective 1, win the Republican endorsement. You want that again. It obviously is gonna help you out tremendously. Plus, guys like me, I just think it funny to watch Alex Plekish have to go on stage again and hold up your
Honestly,
mic.
honestly, honestly, Jake, I would love to win the endorsement. I won the endorsement once already against all odds. To me, this time, the referent, okay, it's
Okay, you just said that's at least an objective, okay? I think I know where you're going with that, but
yeah.
objective number 2 is you're not a candidate on the general ballot if you don't win the primary in August.
I'm winning the primary. There ain't no
Well,
way around
you
it.
have to win it, right?
There ain't no way around it, and they're only making it worse. These people
Right, but
don't.
you
They
have to
don't
win. But
realize
you see
what's
what I'm
coming.
saying? So where are those Republican primary voters? They aren't living online, and by the way, the ones that are living
Oh,
online
sure they are. Sure they are.
no.
How do you explain? How do you explain me winning the last primary?
Oh, 100%, like I just said. Well, first of all, the endorsement helps quite a bit.
True.
For whatever reason in the Republican Party, we follow the endorsements almost to a T. Statewide, I can't even think of an example where it didn't. I can't think of an example where it didn't hold fast. And the only example at the congressional level was CD4, and that was like nobody knew who either one was, right? And that was a couple years ago. So those hold true. So that helps significantly in primary. But the other thing is, I mean, listen, Royce, I know some of the people that were doing this. They were driving around the state prophesizing on like how great of a candidate you were. They literally were driving around a big like 16-foot banner of your name. Your
They're still
signs
doing
are
it.
statewide. You had your own organic
They're still
sign.
doing it, Jake.
Yes, exactly. So that's my point is like there was infrastructure going out and talking to those primary voters. Now, when it gets to the general election, then I can see and agree. And I think, you can't just wait until post primary to do it. So I think the two things live together.
No,
But
what I'm saying is this. This is what I'm saying. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're well. I mean, I think your assumption would. I think that both things can be true at the same time. I think if you have a campaign that's even reasonably well constructed, your candidates should be doing the things like President Trump does online, talking online, and playing the air game. Carpet bombing online, so to speak, while the volunteers of the campaign are doing some of that groundwork and going to places that no one candidate could go all by themselves, especially without the support of the establishment. So we definitely have people who are still driving the signs around, and we actually have more signs now than we did last campaign, and they're going to be all over the state. But never underestimate how many people are actually online. And I think
okay, I don't
a
want to get
lot
boxed
more of
in
those
on that.
primary people are online.
Well,
A lot,
of
yeah.
course, yes. And I see in the comment section, I'm obviously not denying that people are online. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, we all are. The point
But
I'm
you need
trying to
both.
make
You do
is
need
the
both. You're
way.
right.
Yeah. Okay. So you understand what I'm saying is like
Yeah.
why did here? Let's just take the gubernatorial race in 2022. Okay, Scott
Okay.
Jensen. Okay, as much as I have an issue with the weakness of Scott Jensen, he's a chameleon, right? Scott Jensen worked his ass off. It was a full-time job. All right. I wanted Neil Shaw to win. I thought Neil Shaw was a great thing. I still to this day believe Neil Shaw would have been the best candidate we could have had in Minnesota. And you
I
can't
like
recruit.
Neil Shaw.
Yeah, and you
I
can't
like
recruit
Neil
Neil Shaw to save your life these days because the guy's got too good of a gig in the private sector. He's got a young family. Who really didn't seem to be occupied with work and actually Mayor Lexington was Mike.
Murphy.
What's that?
Mike Murphy.
Mike Murphy. Yeah, I already forgot his last name. Who also seemed to be a full-time candidate. And those two people did better than Neil Shaw. And at one point, Mike Murphy was the leading candidate because they hustled. They went around the state of Minnesota, and that's how they earned the endorsement. They won these delegates over with
Yeah.
these real conversations. So yes, the online presence is important. I'm not belittling that people are online, but it does take another effort. And so when I look at like having debates with certain people online, I think a lot of us think like, yeah, I would rather you making direct phone calls to delegates, right? That's how you really, because eventually there's not a better, more honest, easy to understand process than the Republican Party endorsement, because there's going to be 2,000 delegates and another thousand
Let me say
alternates,
this.
and you know their name, assuming the
Let me
party's
say
not doing
this.
funny business.
Let me push back on you here. Okay. One, I go everywhere that I'm invited to. And then I pop up some places that I'm not. So we have a ground game. I think when people see, and it's probably a sign or example that people's perception of what they see online has a disproportionate, place in their mind, because,
And that could
you
be.
know, if you see me online having giving a response to somebody, or let's say 10 responses, maybe there's a thread over the course of 20 minutes. It didn't take that long for me to do it, really. I mean, it's kind of a small Duke deal. But when I drive 3 hours up to Grand Rapids, BPOU, like I did just recently, and we had a candidate forum up there where, in grand fashion, again, Adam Schwarzy showed us how dishonest he is. He said he's not accepting any PAC money or lobby money, but he's courting the NRSC. The NRSC is a PAC and a lobby. It's a PAC. That's PAC money. But anyway,
It's not considered a PAC.
well, but it is.
So
It's
that's,
special
well,
interest.
not legal, not
Yeah,
technically.
but bottom line is, again, this is where
I mean,
Republicans.
yes, it kind of is, and they accept PAC money. So
Wait a second. This is where Republicans go wrong. The NRSC is a PAC. All the politicians that got into office that make up the NRSC were supported by the same special interests and PAC money that ruined this country. So their coalition and their leadership of that body of the NRSC is going to be led by the same corporate interests and lobby interests that the individual lobbies and PACs are. That's just a easy math.
yeah, I
But
know. I'm just pushing back on the technical. It's not
yeah,
technically a
to me,
PAC.
it's a pack. If it
You're
walks
right.
like
It's
a pack,
special
it talks
interest.
like a pack, it quacks like a pack. It's a pack,
Fair
right?
enough. And they do get
Okay.
PAC money, right? That
And
does
they do
go
get PAC money, right? So, and they're funneling PAC money to the candidates like Tom Emmer did to Joe Tayrab. But we'll save that for the next episode.
very well reported on this show.
Yes, that's right. So, but we agree on 90% of stuff. But my point is this, um, you know, the and I don't mean to harp on the online piece, but we have to understand, and I think this is the part of the unconventional nature of how the Republican Party or Republican voters have to commit to in order to be competitive in these races. And that's why, without any support from any of the establishment Republicans, I still did better than anybody else in recent history, is because there were Black people down in CD5. There were people out there in the suburbs, and we know because we were at the Minnesota State Fair, and they come up to me and they say,
Mhm.
"I never voted before. I never donated to anybody before. I heard your podcast. I'm listening to your show on Saturday. I
Mhm.
saw you on Steve Bannon's War Room.
Yep.
I saw you on Truth Hurts with A4L. I saw you with Jesse and Jake." And so the online, if it wasn't for the online, President Trump would have won in 2024.
Right.
And I think that continues to be true in the future. Now, what combination and percentage and how time is spent, at some point, just like with the endorsement, we're going to call every delegate as soon as we get the list. I still haven't gotten one. Maybe it's not done yet, and I would be.
Well, there's no well, actually, I think they do
It's
owe
going to
you
happen
a
after
delegate list.
caucus.
Yes,
After
yes.
caucus,
Yeah,
right?
but obviously there's gonna be new delegates.
There are going to be new delegates, right? So, but you probably should be able to reach out to the old delegates too if they're going to be on the
Correct.
new
Yeah,
list.
you should be able to get that list.
Yeah, but anyway, Alex Pleck is standing up on stage behind me now. He's saying he's a never Roycer, right? If that's a term, he's never Royce. But you know, even with the endorsement, part of being a candidate, in my opinion, is to place a referendum on the people and say, in the endorsement process. I'm going to make the convention fun. If you didn't plan on coming to the convention this year, I'm telling you, it's going to be worth every single dollar. All right. Now,
Oh,
don't
son
say
of a
that
bitch.
to give.
I hate conventions with a passion, and
If
now
you
you got me
listen, you're
interested.
going to want to be at this one. I guarantee.
Oh my god, if there's ever a better call for going to caucus and becoming a
You're
delegate,
gonna
that's it.
wanna be at this
Oh, the
convention
greatest
because
show on earth. Okay,
I'm gonna
what
bring all the listen, I'm gonna bring all the receipts and Jake, come
Dude,
on,
I'm
man.
telling you what, listen, I wasn't at the convention that you won, but I got enough people that are very experienced that were in that room, and you won that at the convention. You
Yes,
didn't come in winning that thing, you won it at the convention.
yes.
And I say this to people, I'm like, "Listen, you wanna get the math right going into convention, and good campaigns, disciplined campaigns that know how to do this and track it, know the numbers going into it, okay? But there are some times where you literally go into conventions and it's up to who performs, and you performed. I mean,
And I'm always gonna
game
perform. I'm
game
always gonna
7 right there. You
I'm
per
always gonna perform because 'cause I'm not acting, and that's a big
Well,
deal.
that's it. That's what I think people see in you is they see a guy not afraid to go places. Like, even in this conversation, and by the way, I really appreciate this,
Yeah,
Royce.
thank you, man.
In this
You know
conversation,
you're my guy. You know I love A4L.
yeah, I mean,
Not enough
well, the thing that I
establishment
like
people or
about you is
establishment money could get me to speak badly about you guys at A4L. I think you
oh, has
guys
it been
are great.
offered? It's been offered. Oh my god, listen, yeah, of course. You don't
In
think we
in
know
in
this?
so many
They
ways, I
tell
guess you could say.
every candidate to be
Yeah.
worried about your association with Action for
Say
the
you gotta be careful for those A4L guys.
Oh,
You
yeah,
actually, you know who
man.
I had tell me that? I think Dave if I remember correctly, I think David Hand told me that I gotta watch out for the Action for Liberty guys, and then he ends up being on record paying Michael Broadcorp $30,000 to trash me. It's unbelievable. But, those are the type of receipts we're gonna bring to convention, and,
Yeah, you
you
didn't
know
see eye to eye with me on David Hand. I remember that conversation, so now you get it. Like, I knew that guy was a snake.
No,
Man
I
was he's
agree. I agree about, but again, it's like, and I say this again about President Trump. I don't believe in my heart. I don't believe that if President Trump would have went full scorched earth against the Republican establishment and not allowed them to come in and join in with him, that they wouldn't have voted for the Democrat or they wouldn't have pulled their support of him in the end. I think he had to play that very fine line, and of course, a lot of the MAGA and America First are unhappy with that, and we should continue to voice that. But we do have to understand we're partly to blame. We're partly responsible because if the MAGA base in this country, if all the people who voted for President Trump, I think it's a tenth of a percent. If a tenth of a percent of the people who voted for President Trump went into caucus, then the 300,000 Republican Party officers would be MAGA and America First, and you wouldn't get an endorsement of a Rhino candidate. But we're not that active yet. We still make the excuse, oh, we got families, we got farms, we got jobs. That's why we don't have time for activism. Okay, well, guess who does have time? The communists. And so when I have to
Yeah.
go deal with the communists, the Trotskyites, the Lenin, the Stalinists, when I have to go deal with the communists face to face, I have to be in a warlike mentality because I have to go in there alone. I'm not
Well,
going
what's
in there
so
with a
fascinating
brigade of woke liberal
Yeah.
sycophants. It's just me. So and I talk the same way online that I talk when I leave this place and I have to go stand in front of a bunch of transgender jihadists and say, "Do your worst. You people are communists," right? And if you don't like a guy like that, then by all means, take a Vin Weber and a Tom Emmer and a Michelle Fishbach and whoever else they can and vote for him. It doesn't wound me. That's the other thing. If you don't vote for me at endorsement, if I don't win the primary, it's a referendum on the people. They know who I am. You know, if you listen to this interview for the last hour and a half, and you think that the 12 people that they listed in that Minnesota Star Tribune article or anybody they would endorse would better represent you in that pit of vipers there in DC, then you deserve to die under communism. And trust me, you get the government you deserve, and by God, we all will. If you really are going to let these people put these puppets in front of you time and time again, in my opinion, you deserve to die under communism.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's so obvious that we get the status quo, and you don't represent the status quo. I thought the first time I interviewed you a couple years ago, I was like, I don't know about this Royce White guy. I think we're gonna throw down, we're gonna be arguing, and I was like, damn, this guy's charming, and he's like there on the issues. And even though I think we had to navigate around one thing you said, which is fine. That's just how that's how people talk. I was gonna
Right.
say that's how guys talk, but that's just how people talk. Like, doesn't mean that Royce has all the answers or I have all the answers. The one thing is, I don't feel like you're phony. I don't feel like you're just telling me something I want to hear. I think you actually have generally your sound ideas, at least principles. Maybe you got to work around those and some of the intricacies. I never would have in the longest guest thought we would be talking about Guatemala today, but and it's how it went. So last question I have for you, Royce. I appreciate your time.
The United States of the Western Hemisphere. We need to just quit messing around and take the whole thing and use it the way that we want to.
Yes, caring about our citizens first.
Yes.
All right. What do you see as the top issue facing Minnesotans in 2026? I'm curious if you have the same view on this, because I am very certain that I know what the top issue will be in the next 2 election cycles. But what do you think it is?
What do I think it is, or what do I think people think it is?
What do you think the reality for most people will be come November of 2026, and that will lead their reasons to vote?
I think in rejection of President Trump, it'll probably be it'll probably be crime and safety, because the economy will. It's my opinion the economy will have made huge leaps, positive leaps, by then, and of course the debt is getting bigger, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent with this answer, but the debt is getting bigger. Again, I have the same question that I have about forever wars: is the increase in debt to the interest and benefit of the American people, or is it to other nations and other people? Like you said, I think there is such a thing as good debt. We know that from the business world. You can have good debt. The good debt is if the debt is going to build infrastructure and things that will return revenue, that will give a return on your investment. And so you see some of that with the tariffs. And last time we had a great economy, or one of the times in history we had a great economy, was Andrew Jackson. He used tariffs. So I'm not against tariffs. Much different global economy than when Andrew Jackson was president. But in theory, tariffs can be useful. And also, not just tariffs, but all the investment that's coming into this country from other countries, I think is a good thing and will pay dividends. But mostly, when you see J.P. Morgan, when you see J.P. Morgan's chief executive, Jamie Dimon, say that we need to have materials that are more reliably sourced, basically going against the supply chain norm, or the CCP. I think that's a great sign that America First is having an impact on the stakeholders of the financial and corporate world in a positive way. So
Some of what I hear
think
from you,
yeah,
you think it's
yeah.
crime and security.
I think the crime is going to get so, and I'll tell you from experience.
But you base that off of, you think the economy will be booming or looking pretty good. Let me ask you this question.
I think Democrats will still find ways to jump through hoops and reject or deny the economic.
Sure, yeah. But in the end of the day, there's going to be something.
So that won't be a.
There's going to be something in the heart of the electorate, and when I say that, the people that will decide which direction things go in the election, because 30% are going to.
I say on the surface,
30% want to die under communism. Right?
Listen, I say on the surface, no doubt about that, sir. You are
well.
Right.
That's it. That's 100%. 30% think the rights come from government, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So, but let me ask you this: if the election was held tomorrow, what do you think?
I think that, and I know this from experience. And I was just, it's funny, I was just some days when I'm down or I'm just want to think, I'll go and take a drive, and I'll drive through parts of the city. I'll drive through rural Minnesota. I just like to drive, and I drove through the Lake of the Isles, Lake Calhoun, Linden Hills, Kenwood area, and you'd be amazed how many Jacob Fry signs there were. Right. And
Yeah.
but that tells me something, right? That tells me that Omar Fateh and what is considered the more radical left doesn't have the support of the ultra wealthy liberal elite in the city of Minneapolis.
Oh, definitely not.
But that's interesting, because you would believe, the media and the narrative would have you believe that the Omar Fatehs are being supported by the ultra liberal elite like MSNBC, right? But there's a different story happening there, and I think for once in this country's history, at least in the state of Minnesota, the crime is going to reach a place visibly where you know young kids going through Uptown, which is a stone's throw from Kenwood, breaking out every single window, is gonna
Wait,
is gonna
Jacob Fry just
become
did
front
a
and center.
campaign commercial how Uptown is making a resurgence. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he's full
Come
of
on down for
somebody was.
business.
I mean, somebody was a
Watch that
young
video. If you haven't seen that video, watch that video. It's
Jacob. But
laughable.
that's my point. And here's
Do you
another
think so? Is
example.
that what you're saying? Is crime is going to be the leading?
No, crime is going to be what's highest on people's.
Okay, let me give you what I believe,
I
and
think
this
race
is
is going to
why
be. I think race is going to be the issue.
race.
Yep.
Okay, so this I disagree with that, and
Okay.
whether the election's held tomorrow or it's held in November of 2026, and
Mhm.
I'll even go as far as the election of November 2028. Okay, this is what I think the issue is going to be overwhelmingly, and I think you're positioned to do very well in this issue.
Okay.
And it's rising prices. 100% convinced on that right now as we stand. That will be in the heart of the electorate is how unaffordable life has become, right? The average guy, if you're not upper middle income class, okay, or the wealthy, you are really feeling the pinch. And it's getting worse and worse because every price that's rising is also a burden that the local governments have. And then they need to expand their budget, meaning raise taxes on you. So we get hit even worse on that. If
Yes.
you just went through your bill, your mortgage, your home insurance, your food budget, your clothing budget, your energy costs, travel, everything is going up. And you have taken a huge pay cut. And it's all because we have an unaffordable government. And here you come along. And if you agree with me, and maybe we could have a conversation over the next couple of weeks on why I'm so convinced on this, you're the best position on it because every other fucking politician out there is lying to us about what caused that problem in the first place.
No doubt.
And it's the Uniparty and their unholy reliance with the Federal Reserve and pretending we have a government we can afford,
Yeah.
even when it's shut down, it's not affordable because we're overspending in a shutdown.
Amen,
And
sir.
it's like,
I
that's
agree with you.
why you can't afford groceries. And if you wonder why guys like me are pissed off at Trump right now, it's like,
Yeah.
then you tell me we got to fund Ukraine and we got to help out Argentina.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I can't afford things for my family. And I think
But
that's
Jake, here's the thing. I would, I totally agree with you on. I'm a debt hawk. I am. But we have a strange, concurrence of this modern monetary theory in the Fed, and it seems that we can appear to front the money as long as people still believe in it. The question is how long they'll believe in it. My theory is we should end the Fed, we should abolish the Fed, and on the way, we should give them a timeline, and on the way out, we should make them eat the $10 trillion of financialized debt that they have on their balance sheet, which is like, I think it's about $10 trillion now, and that's a 10 trillion on 38 trillion is a big deal. It's not the whole story, but it would surely help.
money's already been created, though, and obviously going around in our economy. So we're just not
true.
owing them the principal back on the fake money.
True, but even that affects the perception the perception of the value of the dollar on paper.
It also, by the way, it also puts upward pressure on the interest rates of borrowing because now we've defaulted on the Federal Reserve. So basically all the member banks. And so therefore they go, this is a riskier bet, and therefore servicing the debt. So even something like that, which, I would obviously be sympathetic to because they didn't actually have the money, just create credit.
They just created, right.
That you're still screwing us because, and this is how much we've been sold down the river by our fucking politicians. By the way, I guess the record shows I'm swearing more than you, but you can tell how hot I am on this issue, and I guarantee it's going to be the hottest issue in the next.
But here's the thing. Here's my question. My question to you is this, and this is my question to you is, wait a second. My question to you is this: if past is a prediction of future, hasn't it always been the case that the rising prices of our communist policy here in Minnesota should have been a referendum for people to vote differently? My worry is that
I don't think it's ever been this bad, though. That's the problem. I mean, you probably have to go back to late 70s to see something like this. Like the average home
it's strange that identity politics.
First-time home buyer is like 38 years old. You haven't even reached the age of the average home
I know.
buyer. That's
I
how
know.
crazy things are becoming in
I know,
Minnesota.
but the thing is, ideologues and identity politics types are being conditioned in the universities to forego basic fundamental economic considerations in pursuit of whatever egalitarian utopian view. And so you
But
you
they're
see
not the electorate. The electorate's gonna be made up of a bunch of guys, and this is why they're going hard more on the right side, and this is where they're gonna screw up if they don't deliver, is I'm graduating high school, and I'm not even
working
gonna go
class
to
guys.
college right now, right? And women are
Right,
going to college at a much higher rate, and I'm gonna try to, I got my blue collar job, whatever it is, electrician, plumbing. Those are high paying, by the way, but maybe I'm a lower skilled job. And I don't even have a dream of owning a home for another 15 years. No, wait, almost 20 years. Yeah, 20 years. You graduate high school.
right,
20 years. And
right,
this, young kids aren't getting married. Like
right.
literally, the American dream is going away. Get
Part of
married,
why
have
the part
children,
of why
and
the
own a home.
population is collapsing. Part of why we have a population collapse.
Yes, yes. But the nice thing on the good side of that is the people that are having kids are the ones that agree with you and me.
Well, and that's why
So
President Trump was successful, because you're right. A lot of the working class is seeing it, but we have to be careful for this because we we don't know how much of the incoming young people are indoctrinated with an ideology that says we don't care about the economics. We're all going to be broke anyway. Vote for the ideology. We just don't know how far that cancer is spread in the new electorate. We have indication, right? I mean, they say that 80% of the graduating boys are voting Republican, but a lot of it comes down. And I saw this at the Minnesota State Fair. It was strange. I was standing outside the DFL booth, and I can't tell you how many. I was asking people questions.
love it.
I
I
can't
love it.
tell you how many men came up and they said, I don't vote. I let my wife handle that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
So that's a thing.
That's a real
That
thing.
I need to write something about that. That is a thing in Minnesota.
That's
It's
crazy.
sad. It's a very
That
because
is I was my mind was
it's
blown. I said,
unbelievable.
"What? Look at this
You
cup."
go to kids sports and you'll see the alpha males of Minnesotans all over the place.
Yep.
And in some ways it's disgusting, yelling at refs, stuff like that. You see that. But
Yeah.
when it comes to elections, where are those guys? Like they literally they punt to their wives, right? And
It's
trust me,
scary.
young men that you guys that aren't married, right, or in relationships, women do want strong men,
Do you
right?
think it's Republicans too, though? Do you
It's
think there's a
100% Republicans.
okay, hence my point.
Dude, it's what
There
we
you
didn't
go.
even say like we didn't have a lot of affinity for Melissa Hortman. So when she was killed and assassinated, it's like, I don't want to pour in on like her with her family and stuff like that. The one compliment we could give Melissa Hortman, we were like Pat Garofalo and crying on live TV about his great friend, the person we were supposed to not like, right? I'm sure you saw that video. But the one compliment we gave Melissa Hortman is she always had the Republicans by the balls. She always did. She always outmaneuvered them. And it's like you got a whole caucus full of beta males. That's why Kurt Dow was in charge of the Republican caucus for so long. Like,
Yeah.
like who could even look at that guy and go, that guy's not a huge crony? He was like a lobbyist while serving as the lead in the Republican House, but it's just a bunch of beta males.
Yeah.
And so you're 100% right on that. And that's a real problem in Minnesota. Like we got to get the men to step up and take control of this.
But that's the rejection I get to end, and I appreciate your time, and, I love being on with you, and
Yeah.
I'm as in much support of A4L as any candidate. If there's one that's more supportive, then more power to them. But I love what you guys are doing. I love your work and Mag and Jesse. I think you guys are stand up, and, I love Dale and the crew. But that's a lot of the rejection to me is that whatever percentage, maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 30% of the Republican men that are so favorable towards this happy wife, happy life mantra, that they're willing to forego their own best interest. And you can make an argument. I guess you can make a Christian argument, like the men should make sacrifices for the betterment of everybody else. But the caveat to that is it has to be in the interest of what's true and righteous. And if it's not true or righteous, then your sacrifice is actually in vain. That's just good Christian
Well,
theology.
that's
But
what war is, Royce, is the men are supposed to go fight the wars, right? If,
right,
if we're not the ones fighting the wars, what's the whole point? We're going to send women to wars? No. You send the men to wars because we want a thriving society for our women. and it's bizarre. And I
You're
don't,
sexist,
I
Jake. There are
don't.
women out there. You're sexist, Jake. There are women out there that would fight tooth and nail for the ability to go step on an IED.
Well, yeah, I'm actually this is like the most pro woman thing you could possibly hear us say
You
is
would
like
think. You would
literally
think.
the opposite side of this is we have a lot of strong, bold women. I mean, anyone that's run a conservative group or run a campaign in Minnesota knows there are a lot of strong women who like show up and like look, our best organizers at Action for Liberty, not like staff like Mortensen, but like the volunteers are women. Like 100%. Look who ran our state fair operations. They're women,
Yeah.
right? And then they have the audacity.
But they're the tough women, though. They're not the women
They
that
are
are.
tough women. They are great human beings all around. All right.
Yeah, and they're mostly my supporters. I can't. I think, and honest, this is my honest.
You got a
Uh,
strong woman that's a big supporter of you. That obviously we both know. Like
yeah, yeah. I mean,
100%.
Susan's tough, and she's smart, and she gets things done. She'll get her own hands dirty, and I mean, like she'll get out and her hammer and build things. Right? She's not a sit on the sidelines type.
Right.
And but there are a lot of women across the state that I find support me, and I may even have more female support than men support in some regards, or maybe just the women are more vocal about it. But they're definitely more involved and more active.
Much.
We have to get some of these younger men more involved and more active. We'll have to save this for another time, but
But
I
they're
fear
there. I mean, you go. We both we're
I
coaches in
fear though
team
that the
sports.
young
Like you're
Republican
on the
men,
sidelines, guys.
but
We've
tell their
seen you
lies. And I
doing
say this now.
politics.
I say this now, and I say this as even as objective and even as I can. It's not an endorsement or a denouncement. As sure as the sun will rise, Nick Fuentes is coming. And when I say seriously,
Well,
seriously.
he's making the rounds. I didn't even
He's
know who this guy was a month
No,
ago,
no,
and
no,
now all of
Nick
a sudden
Fuentes, and I say that because when I first ran for Congress in 2022, the Washington Post called me up and they said, uh, "Do you support Marjorie Taylor Greene?" There's another tough woman, by the way.
yeah,
Do you
sure
support
start talking
Marjorie
to him.
Taylor Greene? And I said, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene is part of the War Room Posse. Of course, I like a lot of what Marjorie has to say. Is there something she said specifically? They were like, well, how do you feel about her being at a rally where Nick Fuentes was speaking? At the time, I didn't even know who he was.
Right.
I literally said to the Washington Post reporter, who is Nick Fuentes? Is he Spanish or something? And they were like, well, he's a known white supremacist and blah, blah. I don't care about any of that bull. But my point in bringing it up is when Nick Fuentes' podcast goes to the number one podcast on Apple or Spotify and then gets deplatformed, and just from what I'm watching on social media, Nick Fuentes, and when I say Nick, I don't mean him specifically. I mean the younger generation or the growing demographic of people that are listening to his message. I think that the Republican Party intuitively is trying to keep that demographic of people out of the party. And that's part of the reason why it's not getting younger. That's part of the reason why we don't have younger 18 to 28-year-olds that have the energy to go stand and counter protest the communists
Mhm.
right now. That's part of our problem. It's also why,
Great
uh,
point.
talking about strategically for elections and campaigns and candidates, it's also why somebody like me has trouble, building a massive grassroots campaign because we don't have a bunch of young people that have the energy and the time, don't have jobs, don't have families, don't
Right.
have businesses, like the communists do. The communists have that advantage. We're actively trying to keep the Nick Fuentes demographic out when we should be able to bring them in, talk about the policy. I'd be more than willing to talk with Nick about his views on policy in Israel. And we've talked about Israel before. AIPAC, they would never give me $1. They call me anti-Semitic, but one of my best friends and somebody who I consider family is Ukrainian Jew. I'm just real
Right.
even on the matter. But we should be able to bring these people in. And right now we're trying to keep them out. So we're losing that war on two fronts as well. We're actually pushing our young folks away while the communists are giving them candy. So
Right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah. All right, Royce. Boy, we could go on for another hour easily.
yeah.
Where can people find you?
RoyceWhite.us. You can find me on all the social media channels as well. Please call me crazy. Podcast, YouTube. I'm definitely being shadow banned and censored on there. And yeah, they usually run my podcast on all the War Room social channels as well. Getter, Rumble. And yeah, you can find me at all the Republican events. I think I'm going to be at the Minnesota Republican Federation for Women on Saturday and give a little speech there. That was a good group. We had a debate last go around with Joe Frazier that went well. So I like their chair. She's a good woman, good South St. Paul, another tough Republican woman.
Yep.
And yeah, all the events that are out there for me to be at, you can catch me at those Republican events. If you have one and you want to organize one, I'm more than happy to come to anywhere in the state any day. To meet with a group of Republicans or potential Republican voters. So I'm not hard to find. RoyceWhite.us.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Royce.
Thank you, brother. God bless you.
All right, this episode is brought to you by Alpine Country in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Also brought to you by EliteGuardianMN.com. If you want to check out my next course, which is much more popular these days for obvious reasons, firearms training, EliteGuardianMN.com. Let's do about 10 minutes on the post show. I got some things to say. I want to cover. I want to cover one other thing that would have been nice to cover on the done an actual show about. Shit, I got a couple things. All right, if you're not a premium insider, I'm going to put it right now here in all the threads. Become a premium insider. This is really what makes the show tick. By the way, Mega Jesse's just out there, just so you guys know. But I want to do a one-on-one with Royce, and I hope you guys appreciate it as much as I did. Maybe it's therapeutic for me. I don't know. I just got I got to get off my chest right now. And quite frankly, I got to say Royce did a decent job navigating those tough questions on Donald Trump. Like, that's where my heart's at right now. You can criticize me for it, but I'm going to tell you what I believe to be true at the moment, okay, or where I'm at. And I think there's some really serious misses here, right? He had the biggest mandate I've seen in modern day politics. And it's very clear MAGA's being hijacked just the way the Tea Party was hijacked by the Republican establishment, to the point where we're supposed to dislike Rand Paul but cheer on Lindsey Graham. That's ridiculous. But I thought Royce did a very good job navigating that. And so I appreciate that. It was a good conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed as well. But let's cover some of this stuff in the post show. Become a premium insider, and I think we'll be back next week. We will for sure have Eric Mortensen on next Thursday to cover the Action for Liberty scorecard that just dropped. You can go to actionforliberty.com. You can check it out yourself. We just showed you Jim Nash 25% rating this year. They have the Wall of Shame, but they also got the Hall of Fame. So there's a lot to be seen on that scorecard. You can go to actionforliberty.com and then click on scorecard on the top. For everyone that joins us next week, we might have a show on Tuesday. I got a lot of things that need to be covered. There's some local stuff that needs to be covered. So there might be 2 shows tomorrow. Otherwise, I will see every premium insider right now in the post show. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.